What's up, y'all? Hold on one quick second. Y'all already know the deal. Y'all already know the deal. You know I'm tagging folks. Give me one quick second and we are going to get going. Hold on one quick second. Hold on. Okay. And we are going to do this. All right. Hold on. One more time. One more second. Do this real quick. And all right. It's official across the board. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it may be when you guys are tuning into this podcast. I am your international award-winning author, filmmaker, life coach, lit coach, and empowerment specialist. All the things, Toneal M. Jackson, and I want to welcome you guys to another episode of Get Educated, Get Empowered with Toneal. And today we are talking about you. We're talking about the fact that you matter. So, as always, remember to obey or follow our rules of protocol. Number one, please say hello so that way I can speak back. Number two, please like and share the video. And then number three, please feel free to tag somebody that you believe will benefit from this broadcast. So, who would benefit from today's podcast? Um, People that have self-esteem issues, people who have a problem believing in themselves, people who typically put themselves at the end of their page, at the bottom of the totem pole. If you are that person or you know somebody that's like that, tag them and get them in, because that's what we are going to be talking about. You matter too. That is today's topic. You matter too. So earlier today on Facebook, I put a question out there, and I got to start putting my questions out a little bit earlier. But life be life, and so I get the questions out when I can get the questions out. So one of the question that I asked today was, on a scale of 1 to 10, are how proud of yourself are you? Hey, Miss Betsy, thanks so much for tuning in. So from on a scale of 1 to 10, how proud of yourself are you? And let me explain the reason why I asked that question. Let me tell you why it matters, right? Um, I remember maybe about a year or so ago, I remember putting, it might have been 2 years ago, I don't remember, but some time ago, I remember putting a question out on Facebook that said, when was the last time you told yourself that you were proud of you? And I was so um surprised at the response that I got. I was very surprised to know that many people don't tell themselves, like, or I'll say it like this, at least the responses to that particular post, a lot of people would say, like, I don't know when the last time I told myself I was proud of myself, or I've never said to myself, I've never told myself that I'm proud of me, right? So, like, that was the overwhelming response, that many times people were not telling themselves that. There were some people that were saying they didn't even know that they could tell themselves that they were proud of themselves. Some people even thought it should be arrogant to tell themselves that they were proud of themselves. But here was kind of what I broke down then and I'm breaking down now. Your voice should matter. So maybe instead of saying, hey, Dr. Robert, hey, Lauren, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And so maybe instead of just saying you matter too, I should have named this also your voice matters too. Because watch this, so many times when we are looking to make life decisions, and I won't even say like life or death life decisions, right? It could be something like, okay, if you want to dye your hair, and not even asking somebody if they think that you should or not, but maybe you've always wanted to try, I don't know, red, right? Like, I'm wearing red today, so let's go with red. So you may have always wanted to try red, but instead of just trying the red, you go and you ask somebody else what they think, right? Now, mind you, the entire time you've always said, hey, red is a color that I like. Red is my favorite color. Red is a color that I think looks good on me, whatever the case may be. So, number one, why is it that if you feel that strongly, do does it even occur to say, well, let me go and see what somebody else thinks, right? Like, because, and I've seen it happen so many times. So let's finish the example where person A may be thinking about dyeing their hair, like I say, dyeing their hair red. And instead of just doing it, they will go and ask whether it's a friend, a significant other, their parents, their children, whomever, co-worker, somebody they went to school with. They will go and ask them for their opinion. And if they say, well, no, I don't think that you should do it, then they literally will backpedal and never go through the process. And so you have to ask yourself, why is that? Why is it that somebody else's voice matters so much more than your own? Why is it that we trust other people's opinion about us so much more than we trust our own opinions about us, right? Like, we are the ones that's with ourselves 365 days a year, right? Like, especially when you're talking about social media, I don't care whether the platform is visual or audio only, like with Noon Vibe, right? Like, at the end of the day, the people that's on social media only interact with you as often as you get on social media. So if you go, excuse me, if you go 2 3 weeks 2 3 months without getting on the platform, those people will not see you. They will not know about what's going on in your life unless they happen to know you personally, right? But notwithstanding, they won't know. But you know who has stayed with you those 2 to 3 weeks or 2 to 3 months when you were not on social media? You. You were there all the time. You were there for every situation that you've gone through. Hey, Kristen, you were there for all of these different incidents, yet the amazing part is that you will not trust yourself. You will listen and say, well, you know what? Let me see what this person has to say. So the question again becomes, why is it that we honor slash value slash appreciate what someone else has to say more than we do our own voice, right? And so that's why, again, today's topic is called Your Voice Matters. And so I kind of want to go through this. Y'all know the routine by now, right? So we're going to hit this whole concept of you matter or your voice matters all across the board. So today, why don't we start? Because I think, hey, Mama Joyce, I think yesterday we started with the arts, right? So let's start today with entrepreneurship. So again, if you guys are new to the show, because I know I've done a lot of different podcasts before, and so this podcast is a little bit different. Get Educated, Get Empowered is a little bit different because what I do is I will take a theme, whatever we're talking about, and I will use it or demonstrate how that topic applies across the 4 areas of my expertise, which are the arts, entrepreneurship, relationships, and self care. Okay. So, when we take this concept of you matter or your voice matters too, and let's say we start with entrepreneurship, and I think this is actually really good because this is something that many people will be able to identify with. Hey Laura, hey George, thank you guys for listening in. Listen, how many times have you, whether it has happened to you, so whether you were the person on the receiving end, maybe you did it to somebody, or you definitely know of this happening. So, person A wants to open a business. They're interested in becoming an entrepreneur, right? But watch this. Nobody else in their family is an entrepreneur. Nobody else in their family has started a business. Nobody else in their family, like everybody else, is a traditional worker. Everybody else, either has a 9 to 5 or it's a family business. But this person dares to think that they can start a job, start their own business. How many times have you heard of situations where people who are supposed to be near and dear to them will, mock them, will scoff at them, will laugh at them, will make fun of them, will talk about them? I even know people where relationships have ended because person A wanted to follow their own dreams and not do what whoever else it was thought they should do, right? So what I want to do is encourage the entrepreneurs out there. And in fact, this is really going to kind of closely align with the arts. So I'll segue to the arts right after this. But to every entrepreneur out there, regardless of what your dream is, regardless of what your business is, so whether you want to start your own bookstore, whether you want to create your own clothing line, whatever it may be, let me say this: I am not, and before I even give that advice, I am not trying to say go rogue, right? I'm not trying to encourage a spirit of rebellion. That is not what this is. But what this is to say that you have to have a healthy sense of self, a healthy enough sense of self where you understand what you have been called to do. And especially for my believers, you have to understand that God has a call on your life. You have a purpose for your life. And there are times when everybody just can't go. I saw a post once that said something to the effect of, like in terms of pursuing purpose, like everybody, you are the one that had the vision, or you're the one that had the call. It's not for everybody to answer, right? And so many times we don't walk in our purpose holistically. But again, as it pertains to entrepreneurship, we won't open the business unless my brother, sister, cousin, niece, nephew, uncle, mama, daddy, baby mama, my kids. So unless it can be a family affair, then I don't want to do it. But here's the thing again, if it's your purpose, if it's what you are meant to do, then why is it that you allow what other people are saying to drown it out? I'll never forget when I first opened my bookstore, since we're talking about that. So back in 2015, does seem like that was almost 10 years ago, but back in 2015, that was the first time I opened up a bookstore. I had my bookstore for almost 5 years. Okay. So I remember when I first opened the bookstore, and I won't even be discreet. I'm gonna tell you who said what. All right. So when I first opened the bookstore, there were a lot of people who were questioning me in both my personal and my professional life. Why in the world would you open up a bookstore? Nobody is reading. And it wasn't just any bookstore, right? My vision that God had given me was very specific. It was the fact that my bookstore was supposed to be, and it was named, it was APS Books and More, and our tagline, we were home to the independent author. So we had a very specific niche who we were working with, right? So any readers could buy it, but I was only working with independent authors. And that was something, again, that was something that God had given me, because it kind of aligned with everything that I had been doing all of my life. Like everything was all about, I was an independent author, so my entire journey has been to help other independent authors, from the publishing company to the organization, to like everything that I've done. It's always been to be able to help those who kind of look like me, who are going through. And when I say look like me, I don't just mean my color, I don't mean my gender, I mean the fact that we are independent. So if you are independent, then you understand what I'm talking about. And so with this bookstore, that's what it was supposed to be, right? It was geared toward independent authors. And so by the time I opened up the bookstore in 2015, I had been to events all across the country. Literally, I had friends all across the country. So by the time it was time to open the bookstore, I'm like calling them, hey y'all, guess what? Got this little venture going on where I can give you different exposure. So I had people from, again, you can name the state: Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, New York, Delaware, Pennsylvania, Florida, Texas, California, like literally all across the country. And they were so excited about having somebody they were connected to who was willing to put their book in the bookstore, right? Because watch this, same people had people in their lives that would tell them, your book will never go anywhere. And I guess again, so I'm gonna touch on this, is touching upon the arts too, but I'll totally segue in a minute. But the point is, when I was thinking about opening a bookstore, I had so many people tell me, "Hey, Lady Leah, how are you, ma'am? I miss you." But I had so many people tell me, my bookstore would never last. People don't read. My dad told me, he's like, "There's no way that that bookstore is going to last." But watch this. Watch this. This is how good God is. And this is why I say, regardless of what other people say, and again, I say this specifically to my believers, like when you know that God is telling you to do something, you don't have to give credence to what other people are saying. Because if God has told you, then who can outrank God, right? Like, even if they don't get it now, they don't have to get it. They're not the ones that's charged with the assignment. And so, anyway, going back to my dad, like up into like us going through opening up the bookstore and stuff. Now he was there. He was there. And a lot of times you will have people who talk about you, people who doubt you. They're going to be watching your journey. Many of them are watching because they want to see you fail low key. They want to see you fail. They want to be able to tell you, "I told you so. Why would you try this?" Right. But then again, when you know you are walking in purpose and you're not just listening to, you're saying, "Hey, you have your opinion and that's good because everybody got one." But when you know you've heard God's voice, then you should be listening to yourself. Even when there are haters, when there are doubters, when there are naysayers, you then got to listen to yourself to say, "Hey, I know that this is what I'm supposed to do." And so that same my same dad, may he rest in peace now. But at the time, like we opened, he was there and he would call me and ask me how things were going. And when I say, I want to say like 5, 6 months, maybe 7 months into the journey, he said to me, he says, "You know what? I'm sorry because you making this thing work. I don't know how you do it because I couldn't do it, but you making it work." And see, and that's the other thing. Like, when you're doing something that's beyond what somebody else would do, right? Because many times, especially if it's walking in your purpose, if it's not somebody else's purpose, they won't understand it. You got to understand, my father was a baby boomer. My father has spent 35, 40 years as a postal carrier. He had been in the army, so like his world was different. He didn't understand, like in his days, it was all you could do to aspire to go to college. Like, they didn't do that. He had to leave and go to the military. So my world was so totally different than the world that he had the ability to know, right? So for him, pushing me, encouraging me to go to college, which I did, get a degree, got two of them, like that was what he wanted for me. He was looking for me to, you go to school, you go to work, you get a good job. So then that way you can be on that job for 35 years and you retire with a pension, right? Like, that was what he saw for me. And so when I went down a different path, it was like, "What are you doing?" But then when he was able to see that my path worked for me, he then ended up having to come back and apologize. And let me tell you this, everybody will not come back and apologize. Everybody will not say, "You was right, I was wrong." But you're not walking in your purpose. You're not listening to your own voice just so you can prove somebody else wrong. You're listening to your own voice because you understand that, hey, I know what I need for me. Mama Joy said a couple people even refused to accept my book when I tried to give it to them as a gift. It hurt, but I kept on writing. And you know what? With that, let's go ahead and let's transition over to why your voice matters, even as it pertains to the arts. So whether we're talking about books, music, or movies, right? So there's so many creators, and this is one of the reasons why I created Artist Promoting Success, was because I can't even tell you how many people over the 10 years that we were functioning as an organization, how many people would say the people in their families or their friends that would talk about them, that would make fun of them. "Why you think you can write a book? You not Stephen King, you not Judy Bloom, you not, insert the author, James Patterson, Nicholas Sparks, insert the mainstream author." But here's the thing, I'm not trying to be them. I'm trying to be me. I got a message. I got a story. I'm trying to put out my own book. You see what I'm saying? And so There are times when you got to be able to trust yourself and knowing that this is what I'm supposed to do, even in the actual processes, right? So, like, even before I became a publisher, when I was writing my own stuff, like, I had editors that I would work with, and certain editors, they didn't get my vision and they would try to change what I was trying to do. Now, understand that I am one of the main people that say every editor needs an editor. I am an editor, but I've been an editor for other people's projects as well. But at the same point, I also have editors. And so it is important to be able to collaborate, right? It is important to be able to hear what somebody else has to say. However, you still have to have, and this is why, and I tell my authors the same thing, you need to have an understanding of what you're trying to do with this work. Because, like, when we come to the table, and if you just have a generic concept, but you don't understand the full vision, right? And what do I mean by full vision? So let me just real quick give y'all what a generic consultation with me would look like. So you say you want to write a book, okay, and you want me to either serve as your editor, your publisher, or your coach. The conversation kind of looked the same at the onset for all of it. So we're having this conversation. You say you want to write a book. What is the book about? So if I ask you to give me a synopsis or a summary, you need to be able to do that. If you can't tell me what your own book is about, we already got a problem. We can't even go much further if you don't know what your book is about. Like, even if you don't know what it's about, you need to be able to tell me. So maybe you haven't written it yet. You need to be able to tell me what you want to be about, right? And so when we're having this conversation, you need to know why are you writing it, right? And so, matter of fact, let me not just make it specific to books, since this is the arts. Books, music, movies, same difference. What is the purpose of doing it, right? So whether you're doing this film, whether you're writing a book, whether you're writing a song, what's your why? Why are you doing it? Okay. You need to know that, because that voice, many times, that reasoning, it comes from within. And sometimes that's going to be the only thing that you have to hold on to through this journey of establishing yourself. Okay. So it's like, if you understand why you, so I'm going to ask you, like, okay, are you trying to be an author with this book? And that sounds stupid, right? Because if I'm writing a book, then of course I'm trying to be an author. No, many times people are actually not trying to be an author. They're trying to write a book because they're using that book as a foundational piece, right? So either I want to become a speaker and I need this book to help to launch me. I want to become a coach. I'm trying to do something more, but the book becomes that foundational piece. And so that's what I need to know from you, because how we write the book is going to really be determined based upon what you want to do with it, like the different angles that we can take, how we push the narrative, the way we shape the chapters. It's all going to be based upon what you want to establish, what you want to occur from this book, right? So the point is, you need to know that, because if you come to the table and you don't know what you want to do, then now that means you leaving it in my hands. And baby, that could that could be a dangerous thing, because she is the queen of idea generation, right? Like, when I see stuff, mostly all the things that I see is on a global level. Okay. So, like, I've had people that have had to reel me back in because they like, I wasn't trying to do all that. I didn't want to go that far. And that's fine, right? You need to know what you need for you. Because if you put your fate in somebody else's hands, you put your life in somebody else's hands, you wind up living the type of life that they want to live and not necessarily what you're trying to do. But if you don't understand the fact that your voice also has power, if you don't get the fact that you have the right to speak up for you, then you'll just wind up allowing other people to order your steps, and that's not where you want to come in at. So your voice matters. And while we're talking about that, let's transition it into, when we're talking about what other people want, let's transition that to relationships, right? So, like, how many times have you been involved in a relationship, and you, whether you're the type of person, because a lot of times introverted people will not speak up naturally for themselves, like, because I don't really want to make a big deal out of things. So when you're more of a shy, reserved person, a lot of times, you just let what other people, you're more of a go with the flow type person, right? And so When you are the go with the flow type of person, the potential problem is that people, whether it be your children, your parents, your significant other, your siblings, whomever, even within your work life, your coworkers, your boss, whomever, colleagues, whatever, people can sometimes take it when you are just the go with the flow. Hey, Miss Maria, when you are just like the go with the flow type person, people can then take that to mean that they can walk all over you. People can take that to mean, oh, well, she won't care anyway. So I'm just going to make all of the decisions, or I'm just going to be the one to do this, that, and the third. And they won't even consult you before making a decision. They've just already decided we going to dinner, or we're going to this destination, or we're going to work on this project, and they didn't ask you. And they didn't ask you because most of the time you just say, okay, it doesn't matter. And it's fine as long as one day because if ever you get to the point where one day it does matter, and then you're like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm so tired, because sometimes it becomes a thing where it boils up inside of you, right? Because you're thinking that at some point they should ask you your opinion. And remember yesterday when I was saying how the the worst assumption you can make, which is why we don't assume, the worst assumption you can make is that everybody is just like you. So because you're considerate, then everybody else considerate. Because you would ask people before doing blah blah blah, that they're gonna ask. You cannot assume. You never want to assume that. And so that's why I tell everybody in my life, even I have a little 8-year-old godson, right? And I tell him all the time now, like I've been telling him probably since he was 6, use your words, right? A lot of times when we are used to so like as a baby, he would just fuss and whine and stuff, and he just go right into crying. And okay, when you 2, you 3, you 4, I'll let you go with that. Maybe as you were turning 5 somewhat, but once you turn 6, no baby, you know how to talk now. You know words. Your vocabulary may not be as extensive as mine, but you know what's wrong. So instead of just crying and whining, tell me what's wrong. Hey, Miss Nicole, tell me what's wrong. Instead of you, I I can't understand that. So I need you to take a breath, gather yourself, and then tell me. Tell me what's wrong. Tell me what you want. Tell me what you're thinking. And can I tell you, that's how so many of these adults need to be treated as well. Like I if we're the same age, and again, assuming, and I know we don't want to assume, but just assuming that there is nothing physically, mentally, emotionally wrong with you, and you are able to communicate. If you're an adult and I'm an adult, and if you have a problem, if something is wrong, what is prohibiting you from using your words, not your anger, not your emotions, not not your physicality. So not bullying on somebody because you bigger than them, not trying to no, but what is prohibiting you if somebody does something that you don't like, then why not say, you know what, when you did X, Y, and Z, I did not like that. It offended me when you did that. Now, if your response is, well, because you don't know the type of people that I be around, my response gonna be, why you around those type of people? Why you around the type of people where having your own opinion is problematic? Why you around the type of people that when you try to express how you feel, you gonna get bullied, you gonna get talked about? Like the type of people that I'm around, we don't always agree about stuff, but we have the ability to disagree. Like we respect each other's opinion. The conversation may very well end up as a, we gonna just have to agree to disagree, but I'm gonna at least let you know how I feel, right? So you have to get to a place where you want better for yourself. Does that make sense? So like so many times We don't even realize it, but we're used to, we have programmed ourselves, or even if we didn't program ourselves, we have been programmed and we never took the time to unprogram, deprogram, reprogram ourselves, like to dysfunctionality, where, okay, well, I'm just used to arguing all the time. I'm just used to having to holler and yell and scream. That that's dysfunctional. Like, you should be able to express yourself or listen to someone else expressing themselves without it sending you on a tangent or spiraling you out of control. And this comes with somebody who had to go to counseling because I had rage issues, I had anger issues. I used to go from 0 to 1,000. I used to feel like cussing folks out, because it just made me feel better on the inside. If I couldn't do that, like, I get it. I get it. But because I was there and now I'm here, I can tell you that that's dysfunction that's inside of you and you don't even realize that. Like, as an adult, you should be able to love yourself enough to be able to say, okay, if this is how you have to talk to me, we don't need to talk. What's up, D? If this is how you got to talk to me, we don't need to talk. If this, if it has to always come boil down to an argument, that's not what I want to do, right? And you have the right to say that. Why? Because your voice matters too. You matter too. And so a lot of times in relationships, we find ourselves upside down in it, right? Like, and I know a lot of times when we think about upside down, we're thinking about houses and debt and stuff like that. Like, but no, you find yourself in an imbalanced relationship because one partner has found their voice. One partner has found their voice enough to say exactly how they feel. And you, for whatever the reason is, whether it's because you feel like you're just being polite, whether it's because you are a person that, because I get a lot of people that say, I just don't like confrontation. Speaking up for yourself should not be a confrontational situation. Nicole said, I just saw a line that said, the moment you start to wonder if you deserve better, you do. I really find that to be true concerning communication. Absolutely. Like, and concerning everything, honestly, because think about it. And I'm going to leave that line on the screen for a moment. Because if you're working a job, and if every day you come to work and I don't know why I'm here, because if I was blah blah blah, I could, if I was at this place, I could be getting so much better. And understand, a lot of times when we talk about getting better as it pertains to work, it don't always mean money, right? It's not just always a financial situation. I tell people all the time, I don't care how much we say we love money, the average person prefers their sanity over money. So, like, you could pay me $1 million, but if I hate what I do, if I'm miserable with the people that I do it around, if every day I go to work, I'm stressed out, I come like I have no peace, you can take that job and you can take that job because I don't want that one. Right. Like, many people will quote unquote downgrade themselves to a job that has lesser pay, but they go home and they have their peace. Lesser pay, but they like what they do. They feel appreciated. Right. So if you're at the place where you feel like you deserve better at work, you probably do. If you're at the place where you feel like, even with the way you treat yourself, I deserve better than this, you probably do. Right. And again, many times it takes having to get to a place of healing to get that revelation. Because if you were broken when you came into whatever the space was, whether it's a personal space, a professional space, whatever, if you were broken, you would see yourself the same. Because again, I used the analogy before and I'll use it again. If you got a broken vase, right? It's hard to see clearly through the cracks. But when you have a vase that is, or a glass or whatever, that's totally there are no cracks. So now it's very transparent. I can see straight through it. There are no lines. There isn't any blurriness, right? And so you got to understand that when you start coming from a place of healing, the way that you approach things is going to be totally different. And it should be. And so, anyway, let me keep going. So, for those of you who are just now tuning in, whether you are watching on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, or even listening for Noon Vibe, first of all, thank you guys so much. And again, if you have not already, please say hello so that way I can speak back. Like and share the video, and then tag somebody that you believe would benefit from this broadcast. And even though we're almost done, you can still tag them so that way they can watch on a replay. But today's topic was You Matter Too. And as we do with Get Educated, Get Empowered with Toneal, we take our topic and we show how it's applicable through my four areas of expertise, being the arts, entrepreneurship, relationships, and self-care, right? And so we started out using why you matter too, or your voice matters too, from an entrepreneurial angle. We talked about it within the arts. We moved to relationships, and now we're going to finish out just with self-care, right? So going to finishing it off like what we were just touching upon. When you struggle with knowing your self-worth, that is going to be problematic across the board in your life, because there's going to be so many times where you are putting yourself in dire situations, all because you cannot see clearly, right? When you are broken for whatever the reason is, whether it was childhood trauma, whether it was relationship abuse, whether it was like, regardless of the reason, regardless of when it started, what age it started, with whom it started, when it's present in your life, it is going to take a toll on you. And this is the reason why that little voice that's in your head that's saying, I am not okay, you need to be able to listen to it. I don't care how many other people say, well, we don't get therapy over here, or you're in a church circle and they're questioning your relationship with God if you feel like you need therapy. And regards to all them people's what, when you when you are not okay. And so when you hear your voice needs to be able to be loud enough and important enough to you where you listen, right? And again, I'll do my little last share. I think this is my last share, but y'all already know I'm Kojic, so my half five closes this number two. Okay, so so listen, I share this all the time. I had to overcome depression. I used to deal with low self-esteem for a very long time, like not just as a child, like well into my adult years, well into it, right? I would just say for the last maybe 6 years I came into my healing, right? Like I've been productive in many aspects of my life, but in terms of being healed, in terms of being where I need to be healthily, um probably 6 years. 6 years, and so now that I'm in a place and a space, like, yeah, I overcame depression. That's been about 17, 16, 17 years. So again, it's layers to it, right? It's not just okay, once you overcome one thing, now you just great everywhere. No, because once you overcome the one thing, you're able to see how that one thing was so detrimental in multiple areas of your life. And so it's like, once I was able to overcome depression, then that allowed me to see this thing, that allowed me to see this thing, and so on and so forth. And so my point just is that what I realized was that at some point in my life, and I don't know when, I stopped trusting myself, right? And so that I allowed it, where now I was wise enough to make sure that I had people who actually respected me in my circle, right? So I mean, not 100%, but at least a good 88% of the people that was in my circle during my dire times, during my negative times, at least 88% of the people in my circle genuinely cared about me. And so they would not allow me to hurt me, or they would not allow negative things to happen to me. They would help to talk me through and get me to understand the proper things, right? Even when I didn't have the ability to. And so that's why I say always check your circle, because the people in your circle, they should care about you, even if it's not going to benefit them. They should care enough about you genuinely, where, you know what? you're not even whole enough for me to ask this favor of you. And because of how much I care about you, I will not take advantage of you in this situation, right? That takes a huge love from somebody to do that, because nowadays you have so many people that's just wanting to take advantage of you, right? At every hand. But the point that I'm making is I had enough people in my life who genuinely cared about me, and they continue to pray for me, they continue to give me good advice, they continue to just be patient, because I had to be able to see these things for myself. I had to be able to learn these things for myself. And it came to a place where I realized that somewhere along the line I muted my own voice, right? I turned up the volume on everybody else's voice. I gave everybody else more power than me, like where what they said mattered so much more. But then there came a time where I had to learn, like, it's not from a negative place, but I had to learn to mute their voices and turn up my own, because I'm gonna say it like I started. You're the person that lives with you. I lived with me 365 days a year. Nobody else did. Like, even if I have a, even with my spouse or my children, they live in the house with me, but we ain't always together. But I'm with me all the time. So I had to get to a place where I was good with me, where I was okay, where it got to a point. I mean, there are certain times where I may ask opinions now, but it's not it's really to gain perspective. It's not because I don't trust myself. It's not because I don't think that I matter, right? So I will wrap it up in saying that. So please don't take this text out of context. When I say you matter too, see that it says to, meaning in addition to. So that does not mean I'm not encouraging narcissism. I'm not encouraging people to feel like I ain't got to ask nobody, I ain't got to talk to nobody because y'all don't matter, y'all ain't important. No, no, no. Says you matter too. So also, right? So you have to, number one, you need to be able to know who you are. As my mom would say, whose you are. You have to understand your purpose. What is your why for whatever it is? Whatever it is, I don't care how small or how large. What is your why for doing it? If you know that and you get it, then again, it's nothing wrong with getting perspective from other people, but they should not, the voices that you hear from other people should not be what makes or breaks you. What you get from other people should just give you perspective, so that when you make whatever the decision you make, then you should be a big enough boy, a big enough girl to put on your, to take accountability of it. Let's say it like that. So if it sinks, it's because of the decision that you made. If it floats, it's because of the decision that you made, right? Good, bad, right, wrong. I made the decision. And so many times, if we be honest, that's the reason why we do not want to take ownership of it. We don't want to be that we made the decision, because if it fails, then I don't have anybody else to blame. But if you're, again, if you're really wanting to do this thing called life right, you got to take accountability. You got to learn how to take ownership. Everything that goes wrong in your life can't forever be somebody else's fault, even if somebody else is to blame. At a point, you have the ability to take a stand in your own life. And so, anyway, guys, I hope that this topic helped you all. Again, don't forget, I'm going to remind you real quick that if you like what you heard, you can feel free to send me some stars or some hand claps or some love or whatever. Continue to send encouragement my way. Know that I appreciate it. If you want to send something financially, again, you can do a Cash App or a Zelle. The information is on the screen. But I also want to encourage you guys to sign up for, you can pre-order my new course, Embracing No. So a couple days ago, I did a live on the benefits of saying no. Well, this new course is going to go way into way more depth. This is going to be an instructional situation that is ideal for people who find it hard to say no. Maybe you need to understand why you're saying no. It's going to be in the course. We're going to talk about who to say no to, what to say no to, when to say no, where to say no, why you should say no, and even how to say no. Because the people that's, oh, because I don't want to hurt nobody's feelings. All of that will be in the course. And so you guys have from now to July 31st to pre-order the course. It is only $49. And you can either cash app IMEAE, or you can Zelle info at educated and empowered the number 2.com. As of August 1st, you will still be able to get the course, but it will be $79. So if you want to save the $30, or you even know somebody who needs the course, tag them to this video or take a screenshot for those of you who are watching this visibly and send it to them. 49 bucks, and it's going to help you to level up. But all right, guys, thank you guys so much again for tuning in, and I hope that after watching this you have been able to get educated and get empowered with Toneal. Thank you guys.